I've been a judge for over 40 years, long enough to know that justice is not just about rules, it's about choices, it's about respect, it's about what you do when nobody is watching. And on a rainy Thursday morning in New York City, case number 24T1A07 landed in front of me with a name that sounded like trouble before I even looked down. The clerk called it out, State of New York versus Bryce Langford. And when Bryce walked up, I could feel the temperature change in the room. You know what I mean? Some people don't enter a courtroom. They enter like it's a red carpet. Bryce Langford was 19, not a boy anymore, not a man yet. Tall, sharp jaw, perfect hair like he'd had it cut that morning. He wore a white Dior hoodie that probably cost more than my first car. Balenciaga sneakers, a silver Rolex that flashed every time he moved his wrist. His belt buckle was a big gold H, like he wanted the whole room to know it was Hermes. Even his cologne came in before he did. That strong, expensive smell like money and arrogance mixed together. He didn't stand straight like most young men do when they're nervous. He leaned one elbow on the rail like he was bored. And behind him, I saw the true accessory he carried into my courtroom. Not the watch, not the belt, not even the confidence. It was his phone, glossy black, new model, triple camera, and he kept tapping it like he was texting someone important. The charge was on the screen in front of me. Failure to stop for a school bus, passing on the right, speeding, and then the part that made my jaw tighten. Assault on a person over 60, the clerk added softly, like she didn't even like saying it out loud. I looked up at him. Mr. Langford, do you understand the charges? He smirked, not a smile, a smirk. Yeah, I get it. Can we hurry this up? I've got class. I paused. I've heard every tone a person can use, fear, rage, shame. But that tone right there, that was entitlement, like the courtroom was an inconvenience, like the law was a customer service problem. I said, this is not a coffee line, son. This is a court of law. He shrugged, whatever. Then the victim stepped forward and the whole room shifted again. But this time it wasn't because of Bryce. It was because of her. Her name was Maria Delgado. She was 56, a nurse at New York Hospital. 28 years on the job, night shift. The kind of nurse who doesn't just do her work, but holds a patient's hand when they're scared at 2:23 a.m. She wore plain navy scrubs, no jewelry, no makeup, her hair pulled back like she didn't have time to impress anybody. And I could tell she didn't. She had that tired look that good people get when life keeps asking for more and they keep giving it anyway. Her left arm was in a soft brace, purple bruising still visible near her elbow. And when she took the oath, her voice shook a little, not from weakness, from holding back emotion. I asked her gently, Miss Delgado, are you here about the incident on Elmwood Avenue on October 14th? Yes, Your Honor, she said. I was. I looked at Bryce. You see this woman? That is not a character in your story. That is a human being. He rolled his eyes so hard it looked like it hurt. The officer came up next. Officer Daniel Riley, badge number 317. He had the report, the photos, and the kind of calm voice that tells me he's seen too much and learned not to react. He said, Your Honor, at 10:47 p.m., Miss Delgado exited New York Hospital after her shift. She walked to the employee parking lot near Elmwood and Lockwood. She observed a black Lamborghini Urus traveling southbound at approximately 52 mapped in a 25. That word hit the room. Lamborghini. People hear that and they picture a music video, but in court it usually means one of two things. Somebody worked their whole life and earned it, or somebody's daddy bought it, and the kid thinks laws don't apply at $70,000 a year, or at $300,000 a year, or at $3 million. Officer Riley continued. A school bus was stopped on Elmwood with lights activated. The vehicle passed on the right, crossed the bike lane, and nearly clipped the bus's rear corner. Maria closed her eyes when he said it, like she was watching it again. Officer Riley looked down. Ms. Delgado witnessed it and raised her hand, signaling him to stop. She yelled, Slow down! There are kids! The defendant stopped briefly near the crosswalk, exited the vehicle, and approached her. I leaned forward. Approached her? How? Officer Riley answered aggressively. He called her names. He told her to mind her business. She attempted to walk away. He grabbed her by the wrist. Maria's eyes watered. She swallowed hard. Officer Riley said she pulled away. He shoved her. She fell backward onto the curb. Her left elbow struck the concrete. She sustained bruising and sprain. She also reported dizziness and nausea. I looked at her brace again. I've seen bruises. I've seen injuries. But what I hate most is when a good person gets punished for doing the right thing. I asked Maria, why did you speak up? She looked at me like it was obvious. Because, Your Honor, my sister's boy was hit by a car when he was 8. He lived, but he walks with a limp. And I see kids at the hospital all the time. Broken bones, brain injuries, and sometimes worse. She paused. I didn't want to be quiet and then hear a siren. That line hung in the air. I didn't want to be quiet and then hear a siren. I looked back at Bryce. You hear that? He laughed. He actually laughed a short little breath like she was being dramatic. Then he said loud enough for everyone, she's fine. People fall all the time. This is such a scam. Maria flinched at the word scam. I felt something old and heavy rise in my chest. Not anger yet, not the kind that makes you lose control, the kind that makes you focus. I said, Mr. Langford, you are in a courtroom. You will not call a nurse a scammer while she is wearing a brace because of you. He leaned closer to the microphone. Judge, I'm going to be honest. This is ridiculous. My dad's going to fix it anyway. The room made a sound, not words, just that hush people do when they can't believe someone said the quiet part out loud. And then Bryce added the line that gave this case its title. The line that made the clerk's eyes widen and the bailiff's shoulders tense. Call my daddy. He said it like an order, like I was his assistant. I held my face calm. That's part of the job. But inside I thought, son, snorts, you don't even know where you are. I said, and excuse me. He tapped his phone on the rail. Call my daddy. Put him on speaker. He'll explain how this works. I took a slow breath. I've had people threaten to sue me. I've had people cry, beg, scream, but this was different. This was a kid so wrapped up in privilege that he thought the law was a customer complaint. I looked at the clerk. Do we have a contact name? Officer Riley said, his father is listed as Howard Langford, phone number provided at the scene. The defendant refused to sign the citation and said, quote, my family owns this town. Bryce smiled like that was a flex. Now listen to me. Before I tell you what I did next, I want to dare you to do something. Stay with me through the next few minutes and tell me honestly if you've ever seen disrespect get turned around so fast, because the evidence that came out next made even me pause. I said, Mr. Langford, you're asking me to call your father. Yeah, he said. Do it. I nodded slowly. All right. His smile grew. He thought he'd won. I turned to my clerk. Call the number. Put it on speaker. Bryce's posture changed. He straightened like he was about to watch his favorite movie scene, like he was waiting for his father to come in and wipe the slate clean. The phone rang twice. A man answered. This is Howard, I said. Mo, Mr. Howard Langford. Yes, he said, impatient. Who is this? This is Judge Judy, New York Municipal Court. The silence on the other end lasted half a second. Then I heard the tone change. Not respect, not fear, calculation. He said, Judge, how can I help you today? Bryce mouthed. Told you. I said, your son Bryce is here in front of me. Case 24T 111807. He's charged with passing a stopped school bus, reckless driving, and assaulting a nurse. Howard Langford let out a low chuckle like it was a misunderstanding. Judge, I'm sure we can handle this. Bryce is a good kid. Maria stared at the phone like she couldn't believe this was real. I said, Mr. Langford, your son told me to call you. He said you would explain how this works. There was a pause. Then Howard said, I don't know what he meant by that. Bryce's smile flickered. Howard continued, Judge, I'm traveling. I'm in New York right now, but I can have my attorney call yours. I said, you don't need to call anyone. You can just listen. Bryce leaned in. Dad, tell him. Howard said, Bryce, be quiet. That snapped Bryce's head back like he'd been slapped. You could tell he didn't hear be quiet often. I asked Officer Riley, do we have video? Officer Riley nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Bus camera footage and a parking lot security camera from the hospital employee lot. Also, a 911 call timestamp at 10:49 p.m. We played the bus footage first. You could see the flashing red lights, the big stop arm out. You could see the street wet from rain reflecting lights like glass. And then you saw it, a black SUV, low and fast, sliding past the right side, like the driver didn't even register that children exist. The courtroom reacted, soft gasps. Someone in the back whispered, oh my God. I looked at Bryce. That's your car? He shrugged. I mean, yeah, but nobody was even crossing. Officer Riley said, Your Honor, the bus driver reported 2 students were still in the road near the center line. They jumped back. I said, names? Bus driver is Joanne Pelliter, he said, 22 years driving. She provided a statement. Bryce laughed again. Of course, she did. Then we played the hospital lot footage. It wasn't Hollywood quality, grainy, but clear enough. Maria walking with her bag, Bryce's Lamborghini rolling up. The door opens. Bryce steps out like he's stepping onto a club floor. Maria lifts her hand. You can't hear words, but you can see her pleading. His gestures get sharp, And then the moment he grabs her wrist, she pulls away. He shoves. Maria goes down hard. When her elbow hits, I felt it in my own bones. I've fallen before. I know that shock, that instant when your body forgets how to breathe. Maria turned her face away, tears now. She wasn't trying to perform, she was trying to survive her own memory. Bryce watched it like it was boring. Then he said, she fell. I barely touched her. I leaned forward. Mr. Langford, that video shows your hands on her. He lifted his chin. It shows nothing. The camera angle is trash. I said language. He smirked. Sorry, it's just look, Judge, you don't get it. People like her try to get money. That's what they do. Maria's face tightened. Not anger, hurt, like being seen as less than human. I said quietly, people like her. Then Bryce looked straight at me and said, no offense, Judge, but you're not exactly my level either. The whole courtroom stiffened. I've been insulted before, but that one was class-based. It wasn't about my ruling. It was about who he thought I was. I sat back and let silence do its job. Silence can be a gavel all by itself. I said, son, my level is called being accountable. You should try it sometime. He rolled his eyes again, but I noticed something. His foot started bouncing. The confidence was cracking. Officer Riley stepped forward again. Your Honor, there's more. Go ahead, I said. Officer Riley said, at 11:12 p.m., the defendant posted an Instagram story. Bryce's head snapped up. That's not evidence. Officer Riley said, it is when it relates to the incident and includes admissions. I asked, do you have it printed? Yes, Your Honor, he said. Screenshots were preserved with a digital evidence chain of custody signed by Detective Layla Chen, New York PD Cyber Unit. I took the pages. The first image showed Bryce in the Lamborghini grinning. The caption said, almost smoked a bus LOL. Another post showed a blurry shot of Maria on the ground. The caption said, Karen down. Maria let out a sound like she'd been punched in the stomach. And then the worst one, a selfie video of Bryce laughing, saying, some broke nurse tried to check me. I told her, call the cops like I care. My dad's got judges on speed dial. He panned the camera and you could see the hospital sign in the background. I looked up slowly. Mr. Langford, is that your voice? He swallowed. It's a joke. I said, a joke? He shrugged. People post stuff. It's not serious. Now here's the part you're going to want to hear because it's the moment everything flipped. But before I say it, ask yourself this. If you were Maria and you saw that online, what would it do to your heart? Because what we found next didn't just change my sentence, it changed his life. Officer Riley said, Your Honor, Detective Chen also obtained a Snapchat clip posted at 11:26 p.m. Bryce's face went pale. That's private. Officer Riley answered. A witness provided it. It was forwarded to multiple people. It's no longer private. We played it. In the clip, Bryce was in his bedroom. Designer clothes thrown on a chair like trash, a Louis Vuitton duffel on the floor, music blasting. He held up his keys and said, guess who just bodied a nurse and still made it home? Then he laughed and said, if she dies, I'll send flowers from Gucci. The courtroom went dead silent. Even Bryce stopped moving. Maria whispered, he said that? I looked at Bryce. You mocked her possible death. He tried to talk, but nothing came out right away. When it did, it was small. It was dark humor, I said. Dark humor is what people use when they don't have a conscience. Then Officer Riley cleared his throat again. There is also an ongoing matter, Your Honor. Federal. That word hit like thunder. Federal. I raised my eyebrows. Explain. Officer Riley said the vehicle is registered to Langford Holdings, LLC. There's an open inquiry involving VIN tampering and interstate transport of a stolen vehicle. The FBI requested we notify them if Bryce Langford appeared in court. Bryce's mouth opened. What? That's not, Officer Riley said. Agent Mark Sullivan is present, and from the side of the courtroom a man stood up, plain suit. No drama, but the badge clip on his belt was real and his eyes were serious. He stepped forward. Mark Sullivan, FBI, New York Field Office. Bryce looked around like he was waking up from a dream and realizing it was a nightmare. Agent Sullivan said, Your Honor, I'm not here to disrupt your proceeding, but the defendant's online posts and his location data were used to confirm the car's presence after a reported theft out of New Jersey on September 29th. There is also evidence of coordinated VIN swaps. I looked down at Bryce's Lamborghini keys again. Suddenly, they didn't look like a toy. They looked like a smoking gun. I turned to the phone, still on the clerk's desk. Mr. Langford, are you still on the line? Howard Langford's voice came back tight. Yes, Judge. I said, did you know your son may be driving a stolen vehicle? Howard didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was colder. Judge, I don't know what you're implying. Agent Sullivan cut in, calm and direct. Mr. Langford, this is Agent Sullivan. We have warrants pending. Bryce's eyes went wide. He whispered, "Dad." Howard's voice cracked for the first time. "Bryce, what did you do?" Bryce snapped back, desperate now. "I didn't do anything. They're lying. Tell them who we are." That line, "tell them who we are," that's what some people think is a shield, like a last name is armor. I leaned forward and spoke slowly so every word could land. In my courtroom, nobody's last name is a shield. Not yours, not mine, not anyone's. And then Bryce did something that still surprises me when I think about it. He pointed at Maria and said, "This is her fault. If she didn't run her mouth, none of this would happen." Maria stood there shaking, not from fear, from shock, like she couldn't believe someone could be so cruel. I said, "Miss Delgado, do you want to speak?" She nodded. She took a breath. "Your Honor, I don't hate him. I don't even know him, but I see kids at the hospital who don't get second chances. I see mothers begging for one more day." And he laughed. He laughed like it meant nothing. Her voice broke. "I have a son. He's 17. He wants to be a medic. And I think, what if someone like him hits my boy someday and laughs?" That did it. The room wasn't angry anymore. It was united. The kind of unity you see when decent people all feel the same moral line get crossed. I looked at Bryce. "Your father can't fix your character." Then I looked at Agent Sullivan. "Agent, will you need him today?" Agent Sullivan said, "Your Honor, we are prepared to detain him pending federal processing if necessary." Bryce's knees almost buckled. He grabbed the rail, and that's when the real authority in Bryce's life finally showed up. Not the expensive lawyer, not the car, not the followers. It was his father's voice, suddenly not powerful anymore, just panicked. Howard Langford said into the speaker, "Judge, please, what can we do?" I said, "Now you're asking the right question. If you're still here with me, you're part of something bigger than drama. You're part of a community that believes respect matters. Tap like right now so this message reaches more people who need to hear it, because what happened next is the kind of justice people think doesn't exist anymore." I turned to Bryce. "Mr. Langford, you wanted to call your daddy. You got your wish." Bryce's voice was small now. "I didn't mean I cut him off, not with anger, but with certainty." "Yes, you did. You meant every word until consequences showed up." I reviewed the charges again. Reckless driving, passing a stopped school bus, assault, and now the federal shadow hanging over him. I said, "This court is municipal. I don't control the federal case, but I do control what happens here." I looked at Maria. "Miss Delgado, you work nights. You care for strangers. You tried to protect children you don't even know, and you got hurt for it." She wiped her cheeks. "I just want him to learn." I looked back at Bryce. Learning is expensive sometimes. He tried one last move. He lifted his chin, but it was weak now. "Judge, you can't do this. This is unfair." I finished. He nodded. I said, "Unfair is you shoving a nurse onto a curb at 10:49 p.m. and then posting Karen down. Unfair is you laughing about a school bus. Unfair is thinking a name buys you permission to hurt people." I paused, and then I gave him the sentence. "On the traffic charges, I'm imposing the maximum statutory fine. $500 for passing the school bus, $300 for reckless driving, court costs included." He flinched, but that wasn't the main thing. "On the assault," I continued, "I'm sentencing you to 90 days suspended, 1 year probation, anger management, and a no-contact order with Ms. Delgado." He opened his mouth like he wanted to argue, but I held up my hand. "And here is the poetic part," I said, and my voice lowered. "Because you laughed at a nurse, you are going to serve the people she serves." I looked at him dead in the eye. 200 hours of community service, not picking up trash in a wealthy neighborhood, not signing papers in an office. You will complete your hours at a hospital volunteer program approved by probation, working in support services, wheelchairs, linens, transport, the unglamorous work, the work that teaches you what dignity looks like. He shook his head fast. No, I'm not doing that," I said. "Then you'll do the 90 days. His eyes darted to the phone speaker. "Dad," Howard Langford's voice sounded broken now. "Bryce, do what the judge says." Bryce stared like he didn't recognize his father, and that's when Agent Sullivan stepped forward again. "Mr. Langford, we'll be speaking after this. Please don't make this harder." Reality hit him in waves. First the nurse, then the videos, then the FBI, then his father's voice failing him. He whispered, "This is not happening." But it was. I leaned forward and softened my tone just a little, because even when I'm firm, I'm still human. Mr. Langford, you have a choice. You can let this be the moment you become a better man, or you can let it be the moment you become exactly what people already think you are. He looked down at his designer shoes like they could save him. Maria stood quietly, still hurt, still dignified. I said, "You will also write a letter of apology to Miss Delgado, a real one, not a lawyer one, a human one, and you will read it in court at your compliance review on January 19th at 900 a.m. He swallowed hard. "Yes, Your Honor." I nodded. "Good." As the bailiff guided him back, Bryce turned once, and for the first time, he looked scared. Not scared of me, scared of losing the world he thought was guaranteed. The phone speaker clicked, and Howard Langford said quietly, "Judge, thank you." I didn't answer with pride. I answered with truth. "Don't thank me. Raise your son." When the courtroom emptied out, I sat for a moment. I've seen so many lives split into before and after. One bad decision, one cruel laugh, one shove. And sometimes one moment of accountability can still pull a person back from the edge. But here's what I want you to take with you. Justice is not revenge. It's balance. It's the message that nobody is above the law and nobody is beneath respect. Maria Delgado didn't come to court for money. She came because she believes speaking up matters. And in a world where people chase attention, she chose courage. Bryce Langford walked in thinking his last name was a passport. He walked out learning it was just a word. And words don't erase evidence. I think about my father sometimes. He taught me that a person's value isn't in what they wear or what they drive or who they know. It's in how they treat the person who can't help them back. If this story hit you in the chest the way it hit my courtroom, thank you for watching truly. And if you want the next case, the one where a man tried to bribe me with cash in open court and didn't realize we were recording, subscribe and stay close because that one is even wilder.